This is Cars and Bids, and today we're going to discuss new cars today that will be favorites on Cars and Bids in 20 years. Cars and Bids will still be around in 20 years selling cars, so if you want to buy a car today that you'll preserve and then sell it in a week-long auction 20 years from now, these are the cars that I think are going to do the best. You know, cars in 20 years, they'll be electric cars, they will largely be self-driving, so what will enthusiasts want who are nostalgic about this time period? Today, I'm going to tell you what I think is going to be really special then. Okay, first group of cars that will be special on Cars and Bids in 20 years, the fast wagons. Which is interesting because that group of cars is special on Cars and Bids now, so maybe this video is going to be pretty obvious stuff, but the point is fast wagons are going to do really well. Fast wagons, like I said, have already done well on Cars and Bids, but there is a new crop of fast wagons out right now that current enthusiasts who don't have huge budgets aren't really thinking about, but they will be. Audi RS6 Avant has just come out. These are $120,000, $130,000 cars. Give it 20 years, give it 10 years. E63 AMG wagon, current body AMG wagon is amazing. Maybe even a little better than the Audi. Amazing, amazing car. Then those two are obvious, but there's also more than that. How about the Jaguar XF Sport Brake? That car came and went. It was big money. No enthusiast is buying a Jaguar wagon, but as they get cheap, there was an S version of this car that was pretty powerful. I think they're going to become really desirable cars for enthusiasts. Maybe not really desirable, but I think a lot of enthusiasts will start giving them second looks once they're 15 grand with like 400 horsepower. Also, don't count out Porsche Panamera wagon. Porsche makes a Panamera S, a Panamera 4S, a Panamera Turbo, a Panamera Turbo S wagon. And right now that's like a $200,000 car. Well, give it 20 years. I mean, the 2010 Panamera is like 19 grand. So in 20 years, these things are 10 years. These things are going to be affordable, $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 for a Porsche station wagon with like 500 horsepower. That's a cool car, no matter who you are, and I think those are going to do really well on Cars and Bids as they start to come down in price. Next up, the next group of cars that will be favorites on Cars and Bids in 20 years, off-roaders, which again are popular now. So maybe this is a very easy thing to do, but this one is actually interesting because I think off-roading is one of the pieces of car enthusiasm that's going to change a lot over the next 20 years that not a lot of people are talking about. A lot of people talk about racing. There's already like racing events for electric cars. Hill climbs are done a lot of times on an electric car. I mean, electric cars have started to permeate racing, but no one's really discussing off-roading all that much. But off-roading is going to change. Right now, off-roading is a bastion of big engines, big tires, big power, locking differentials, manual lockers you put on. I mean, that's all going to change when electric vehicles start to show up and things are going to start to be different. And so I think even as popular as off-roaders are right now on Cars and Bids, Land Cruisers and 4Runners and G-Wagons and Jeeps, they're going to be even more popular in 20 years. Today's ones will be because you won't be able to buy cars like that anymore. The 200 series Land Cruiser, the one that's on sale right now, those things in nice shape are going to be worth a fortune in 20 years. This was probably the end of the line for the Toyota Land Cruiser here in North America. And so nice ones that are well preserved are going to be really valuable. Ford Raptor is a special car. Ford just announced a new Raptor. It's going to be cool for a long time, and I don't know how much longer Ford's going to be able to get away with a gas-powered engine. A lot of people thought this one would be a hybrid, and the next one almost certainly will be, et cetera, et cetera. That's going to change. Well, remember, there was one with a big V8 that was painted orange. And so those are going to be cars that are really popular going forward. I'm sure the Raptor will get even more power and have even more capabilities once it does hybrid and electric, but there will always be a group of enthusiasts nostalgic for the big V8s or even the turbo V6. Not just those though, well-spec Ford Broncos. You know, there's going to be a period when the Bronco comes out, we're going to see them everywhere like Jeeps, we're going to get overloaded, bored with them, but then they're going to start to die off. People are going to mod them, people are going to crash them, they're going to get exported, and there will be 20 years from now, nice Broncos, just like 90s Broncos now are gaining in value, 20 years from now, nice Broncos will gain in value too. Nice new Broncos, not even out yet, and I'm already saying it'll be a classic. Same with other stuff. Chevy Colorado ZR2. Off-roady pickups, keep those in nice shape. I think they're going to be worth something someday. People are going to want off-roaders. Even like the new Land Rover Defender, like my car, I think stuff like that is just not going to exist in 20 years, and you'll have to draw from a finite well of off-roaders in the old school that are for sale. I think people are really going to yearn for these real off-roaders, and I think that's going to make a lot of these cars stay valuable, even Xteras maybe. It's just, the off-roading is going to change a lot. Next up, another group of cars that I think could do really well in 20 years on Cars and Bids, modern muscle cars. This is not discussed enough. We are currently in like another version of the 60s with muscle cars. You are aware that there are now, between the Hellcat, the GT500, and like the top version of the Camaro, we all have like 700, 600 horsepower muscle cars. There's like many to choose from. There will not be 700 horsepower V8 muscle cars forever. That ain't gonna stick around. People said that in the 60s. It's not really true, it's back, but it won't be back forever. There will be electric muscle cars that are gonna be just as amazing as today's cars, but there will always be a group of enthusiasts nostalgic for the cars of today. So the Charger, the Mustang, the Camaro, the Challenger, they will obviously be popular, but the cars that I think are really gonna be popular in 20 years, the Hellcat, the Demon, the GT500, the GT350R, the Camaro ZL1 and Z28, all of those, the best versions. Think about what happened to 60s muscle cars as people from that era grew up and got money. Those cars were selling for massive money. It's gonna happen here. Demons will sell for $1 million one day. I'm serious. They make huge power. They have V8s. They have this retro styling. Not all this stuff will continue forever. And I think these cars, all of these muscle car type cars, even a regular Mustang GT, they will be cool in 20 years. But these really special versions are going to be valuable and cool. Very, very exciting. The last group of cars that I think will be Cars and Bids favorites in 20 years, manual cars. This might also sound kind of obvious to say, but you know, it's interesting. For as much as everybody complains about the death of the manual transmission, there sure still are a lot of like special edition cool manual cars, but they're dying. Ford Focus RS, that was out along with the Focus ST. It was like, what do you mean the manual's dead? You get two Ford hot hatchbacks. Well, they're dead now, but they existed in large numbers, and I think those will continue to increase in excitement. Maybe not in 5 years, they'll be used cars, but in 10, 15, 20, the interest in cars like that will start to come back up. Think about the GTI. 80s GTIs for a long time were kind of like, whatever. Now it's like no one can spend enough to get nice GTIs. And it's not just those. Golf R in nice shape with manuals, BMW M2, cars like that that are kind of coming at the end of the line of the manual transmission. I think those cars are gonna continue to be desirable. It may seem obvious to say that because we've seen with manual supercars, they've stayed desirable. But I really want to drive the point home. I really think the kind of the end of the line manual cars are going to be special and are going to continue to be special. There will always be a nostalgia interest and a car enthusiast enjoyment in shifting gears. It won't be a mainstream thing, but it will be enough that these cars will stay exciting. Just think about how well the Nissan Sentra SER and like I said, the early GTI, E30 M3, how much interest there is with those cars now. Well, now imagine the manual completely goes away and it's replaced by electric cars. It's going to be even more interest in keeping that feeling going in like 20 years. So there you go. Those are my predictions of cars that will be big favorites on Cars and Bids in 20 years. If you want to make a good financial decision, buy a car like this and then let it sit for 20 years. No, don't do this. But if you happen to have in 20 years or 10 years a well-preserved version of the cars I'm talking about, you will start to see, I suspect, some appreciation in value and some appreciation and interest. The car industry, the ground is shifting beneath our feet in a way that it probably hasn't in terms of driving experience since most of us have been alive. And I think the effect is going to be that some of these late end of an era type cars, off-roaders, muscle cars with V8s, they're going to be revered. And hopefully they'll be revered by selling for big money on Cars and Bids in 2041. See you then!